Hi, welcome to the narration for a piece I'm calling A Puzzle of Light and Shadow, or How to Draw Jigsaw in Procreate. Now there is a lot to unpack here, so I want to kind of start right off the bat by explaining the large black space over on the left hand side of this piece. This is a piece of my backlog. I think I drew this roughly around October. It would make sense because this has a Halloween theme to it. And this and a number of pieces I did in my early days of experimenting with Procreate all really kind of brought some inspiration from a project that I was working on for work. I'm a big fan of Halloween, and I volunteered to put together and host some sort of a Halloween-themed game show for a team that I was working with. Just a little something that was kind of tongue-in-cheek, a little bit of fun to be had at the end of a long month or something to that effect. So, as something of a team-building exercise, I thought maybe we'd do some sort of a Halloween-themed quiz show type thing based off of popular horror movie characters, and this is one of them. Now, the black space on the left is because this was put into a PowerPoint, and that large black space over the left was a space where I could put in text for the question and ultimately the quiz answer that related to this particular image. Now the image is a horror movie character, the marionette from the Jigsaw or the Saw movies. The character's name is Jigsaw. I'm talking about this one today because I'm actually doing a couple different things at once. I'm going through my backlog and trying to post some videos on that because I'm working on a little bit of something for later on. We'll discuss a little bit later. But in addition, this was a really great example of me kind of working outside my normal method. If you were watching as I blocked in the shape of the body there, I didn't do my normal method, which is sketching in shapes and using what would largely probably be considered to be something reminiscent of the Loomis method. I didn't do it this time though. I knew what I was looking for. I had a really good photo reference of this Jigsaw marionette on the little tricycle, so I got a really just thick piece of a charcoal type brush and just blocked in the dark shape, the silhouette of what that body would look like. This is a popular method. I obviously didn't invent it, but it is something that's a little bit contrary to my normal method of doing things. Again, I really feel like this and a couple of the other pieces that I'm posting this week are really about learning and experimentation, and by all means I encourage it. A digital medium is very forgiving, and with digital tools like iPads and Procreate coming down in price a little bit over those really expensive Cintiq type tablets and things of that nature, have really made this a little bit more of a hobbyist's price point, even though iPads are still expensive, I'll admit. Now, getting away from that for just a second and back to the drawing, let's kind of talk about the main title that I gave this. It was something about light and shadow. And the reason for this is because I started this piece back in October, as I mentioned before. But as I pulled it back out this morning and started looking at it, there was a lot about it that I wasn't happy with. Light source wasn't exactly what I wanted it to be. The shadows and the light weren't consistent. And I want to kind of explain all that as we get into it. But the point here is that before I posted this, I went back and made some tweaks to it. They were hurried. I was in something of a time crunch to get this done and get it posted before I worked on some other projects. And so, again, it's not a perfect piece, but I did try to make some sort of course correction here to accommodate for some of the errors that I noticed when I first pulled this out and started thinking about putting it up online. Real quick here, colors are really simple. Black, white, red. There are some gray in there, obviously, and some shadow colors, but the main local colors are going to be the black, the red, and the white. And so there wasn't a whole lot to really kind of muddle with or anything like that when it came to this experimentation, but it's why the errors stood out so glaringly to me a little bit later when I went back to look at it. Is this a caricature? I'd say maybe, yeah. It's a caricature of not a human being, but of a puppet, but the likeness was still achieved. So I'm going to go ahead and own this one, and I will put this particular piece underneath my caricatures playlist if you're looking for those a little bit later on. At this point, I'm starting to apply the color. The big bold red was essential to this. It really kind of makes everything pop, and I really kind of enjoyed putting in the red, especially with that kind of makeup effect around the eyes and the so-called lipstick and the cheek circles that this marionette has. Since this isn't really getting into the piece that I wanted to discuss about the light yet, I'm going to go ahead and just pause for a moment, stop the audio narrative, let you enjoy this ominous music for a little while. Just a note on that, the music is called Dragon and Toast by Kevin MacLeod. I use a lot of his music because it's free and we can put them on the YouTube videos without copyright. But if you want to know more about his work, go ahead and take a look at the description. I'll put in a little bit more information there about him. So enjoy the music. I'll be back to talk about lighting in just a second. Okay, so let me jump in here and talk a little bit about the lighting and the shadow one here. And just so you know, when you see the little signature start to go, and this is roughly where it's going to stop and change so I can do those updates and re-edits that I mentioned a little bit earlier. Right about, I think it's going to happen about now. There it is. Okay, so we're going to remove that little signature out of there, and we're going to start changing some stuff around. First of all, we don't need that dark black over the left anymore, but because it was compositionally how this whole thing was set up, and I didn't want to edit the canvas itself, I decided to try to just make it a part of the lighting source here. Problem is, notice what I'm doing, it doesn't match. I decided to start having light coming from the right, but there was shadow already over there, so it wasn't going to work. I had to change everything around. The big thing I wanted to talk about here, though, is about colors of light and shadow. Right now, the shadows that you're seeing on there are grayish, but they have a blue tint to them. And what I also did was come in here, as you notice right now, with a blue light source. And I think it makes the image look a little bit flat. Now, that might be appropriate for this particular subject matter. This has got a very cartoon cell kind of look to it. And I'm happy with that, and that's fine. But it is a learning experience here in trying to understand that difference and that balance between light and shadow. There's nothing wrong with blue light, and there's nothing wrong with blue shadow, or cool light or cool shadow, if that's your preferred term. But putting them together like this can often lead to maybe a flat and uninteresting image. And I think the only reason it does work is because we have that bold, bright red. That's really kind of our only real saturated color to this entire piece, making some things pop. But if I was going for something that was a more human type thing, if I was looking for flesh tone, for instance, and I wanted that to read right, and I wanted it to read in a three-dimensional sense, I have to try to kind of change this up a little bit, either by changing to warmer shadows or changing to warmer lights. The opposite wants to play off of each other, so warm light equals cool shadow, cool light equals warm shadow, or vice versa. I think you get what I'm saying. The reason I stuck with a blue light on this is because when I put in the rim lights on the left-hand side of the body, I put them in something of a blue color. And rather than back all that out, because I didn't put it on its own layer, I kind of was forced to move into this blue light type category. And again, maybe it works for this piece just because of the big bold red that comes out otherwise. But in other pieces, it wouldn't work. And again, I just want to kind of make sure that we're kind of clear on how that mentality works. The rule of thumb is basically this: warm light equals cool shadow, cool light equals warm shadow. And if you can kind of understand it from that mentality, then that makes color theory start to make a little bit more sense. And I think you'll find that your pictures start to pop a little bit more when you do that. In just a couple seconds, we'll wrap this whole thing up and put signature on it and put it to bed, so to speak. But before I do kind of end up this narrative, I'd like to kind of point out a project that I'm kind of working on in something in the long term. I think it might be valuable to anybody who's out there is interested for me to start doing some more in-depth tutorial videos. And when I say tutorial, I mean like a real kind of live drawing sessions where I'm not doing some sort of a recording and narrating later, but something that really kind of speaks to how the drawing method works, how rendering works, maybe even getting back to fundamentals of shape and form and tone. And then in addition, maybe even doing some tutorials on Procreate. They seem to be pretty popular on YouTube. I know I benefited from them a lot, but having said that, there was a lot I had to learn on my own because I couldn't find some videos on some of the things I was looking at when it came to Procreate. So if it's something of interest to you, leave a comment below. Tell me what you'd like to see. Tell me what you'd like to see a tutorial on, and I'm going to try to start making some video and content on that pretty soon. That being said, this whole thing's wrapping up, so thanks for your time. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already, and have a great day.